Let's start with something most history documentaries barely touch. During the harshest years of the Second World War, when supply chains collapsed, livestock numbers plummeted and grain harvests failed across entire regions, one humble seed quietly proved more reliable than beef and more resilient than corn. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't heavily rationed, and it didn't rely on industrial farming systems. Yet it kept families alive when everything else fell apart. This wasn't just about survival, it was about efficiency. Governments and rural communities alike began to realize that certain crops could produce more calories per acre, require less input, and survive in conditions that would wipe out traditional staples. Among these, one seed stood out: the field pea. Not the garden pea most people think of, but hardy varieties bred for resilience, storage, and nutrition. If you're serious about survival history or even modern self-sufficiency, understanding why this seed outperformed both beef and corn is more than trivia. It's practical knowledge you can still apply today. Why field peas quietly became a wartime nutritional powerhouse. Field peas delivered something rare during wartime protein without the cost of livestock. Raising cattle required land, water, feed, and time, resources that were all in short supply. Field peas, on the other hand, could be planted early, matured quickly, and produced a high protein yield in a single growing season. In many parts of Europe, peas became a direct substitute for meat. They were dried, stored, and used in soups, stews, and even ground into flour. A single acre of peas could produce significantly more usable protein than an acre used for grazing cattle. That efficiency made them invaluable. If you were applying this today, the takeaway is simple. If you have limited land and want protein security, dedicating space to legumes like field peas gives you a far higher return than attempting to raise livestock. How peas outlasted corn in harsh and unpredictable conditions. Corn has always been a staple, but it has one weakness: it demands stable weather. During the Second World War, many regions experienced erratic rainfall, early frosts, and soil degradation. Corn yields suffered badly. Field peas were different. They tolerated cooler temperatures, required less water, and could even improve poor soil through nitrogen fixation. This meant farmers could plant them in marginal land where corn would fail. There's a practical lesson here. If you're planning a survival garden, don't rely on a single staple crop. Incorporating resilient crops like peas ensures that even in a bad season, you still harvest something meaningful. A simple step you can take is to plant peas early in the season before your main crops. Even if later plantings fail, your early harvest provides a buffer. During the war, communities really stretched every harvest, especially when it came to peas. Now, one of the big reasons peas were so effective wasn't just about how much you could grow. It was their sheer versatility. Families, well, they didn't waste a thing. Fresh peas were eaten straight away, and any surplus was dried for long-term storage. You see, dried peas could last for years without any need for refrigeration, which made them absolutely perfect for those uncertain times. They were also, incredibly filling. And when you combined them with root vegetables or grains, you got these complete meals that kept energy levels up during those long, physically demanding days. If you're thinking about putting this into practice, it helps to start thinking in terms of food systems rather than just individual meals. It's wise to grow crops that can be preserved easily. Drying peas, for instance, doesn't require any fancy equipment, just a bit of proper airflow and some time. That's really all it takes. Now, here's something a bit interesting. How governments encourage pea cultivation without making a big fuss about it. Unlike wheat or potatoes, peas weren't always splashed across advertisements. Instead, in some countries, governments quietly encouraged their growth through things like seed distribution and farming guides. The idea was to diversify food sources, but to do it without causing panic or making folks dependent on just one crop. This quiet sort of promotion actually helped stabilize local food systems. People who planted peas often found themselves, well, better prepared than those who relied solely on rationed goods. Today, this translates into personal resilience. Don't wait for official guidance or trends. Build diversity into your food supply before it becomes necessary. What made peas more efficient than livestock during resource shortages? Livestock require continuous inputs. During the Second World War, feed shortages forced many farmers to slaughter animals prematurely, reducing the long-term food supply. Peas, however, required minimal maintenance after planting. They also enriched the soil, meaning the next crop planted in that field would perform better. This regenerative aspect made peas not just a food source, but part of a sustainable farming cycle. If you're planning long-term, rotate peas with other crops like maize or potatoes. This improves soil health and reduces your dependence on fertilizers. You know, ordinary families really leaned on peas to keep their strength and health up. Protein deficiency was honestly a real threat during the war. But peas, well, they helped bridge that gap. Quite often they'd be mixed with grains to create what we call complete proteins, supporting muscle strength and, overall health. Folks came up with simple recipes to get the most nutrition they could. Thick pea soups, for example, became a staple because they were easy to prepare and, honestly, highly sustaining. You can adopt the same principle by pairing legumes with grains in your meals. It's a low-cost way to maintain balanced nutrition without relying on expensive animal products. Why this forgotten seed still matters for modern survival planning. The lesson from the Second World War isn't just historical, it's practical. The same factors that made peas valuable then still apply today. Efficiency, resilience, and nutritional density. If supply chains were disrupted again, crops like peas would likely become essential once more. They don't depend on complex infrastructure, and well, they can be grown in a wide range of climates. Start small. Dedicate even a portion of your garden to legumes. Learn how to dry and store them properly. Build that knowledge now, while conditions are stable. The truth is, survival isn't about the most impressive solution. It's about the most reliable one. Field peas weren't flashy, but they quietly outperformed expectations when it mattered most. That's the kind of knowledge serious history buffs and survival enthusiasts should never overlook. If you found this valuable and want more deep, practical insights from history that you can actually use today, make sure you subscribe and share this with someone who takes preparedness seriously.